For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond.
This is The Space Shot, episode 438 for October 28th, 2023. I'm John Molix. Time is an odd thing, and my perception of, at least, has been turned upside down in the best possible way since we welcomed our first child this September. Little Astrid and my wife Simone are doing great. We're definitely a little bit sleep deprived, just like every other parent over the course of human history, but we're doing great. I'm actually recording this episode with her snoozing in my arms, so if you hear any crying or anything in the background, I may have to wrap it up quicker than I thought. This year I was originally planning on doing some more space history episodes, but I've changed up what I want to do with the podcast moving forward. It's funny how having a kid will change your perspective on so many things. It's kind of wild having this podcast almost as a way that, long term, if she ever wanted to learn about me during this time of my life, she'd have that resource and opportunity. So definitely changing how I think about the podcast going forward with that in mind as well. Season 6 is going to start up with episode 439, and the upcoming season will feature a lot of book reviews, conversations with the authors, and book discussions. I've been reading a ton of galleys for upcoming books covering science, aviation, history, and way more. I'll be featuring those conversations all through season 6 and beyond, really. You also may have noticed that there haven't been as many social media posts over the past few months. This is because I've made a point of being on social media less and less this year, partly because I want the time back for reading. I want to have good reading habits once Astrid is old enough to start reading on her own. I've already started reading to her, and it's pretty hilarious. She's looking at her black and white books and totally loving the images, and just seeing those little gears turn has been very satisfying and gratifying. So the other reason I've been reading more is because books offer an alternate path from consuming just endless pieces of algorithmically recommended content that's really devoid of substance in many cases. One of the many things that's turned me off, from Facebook or social media platforms generally, aside from the just general cesspool in a lot of online communities and platforms, were some comments from Meta's CEO Mark Zuckerberg during the Q3 earnings call. Jay Peters with The Verge had an article on it, just a little brief blurb on it. But here's the full quote from Zuckerberg. What he predicts is, I do think that the fundamental technology around generative AI is going to transform meaningfully how people use each of the different apps that we build. For the feed apps, I think that over time, more of the content that people will consume is going to be either generated or edited by AI. Creators will now have all these tools to make content more easily and more fun. And some extra emphasis here on this last sentence of the quote. I think that over time, maybe we'll even get to the point where we can just generate content directly for people based on what they might be interested in, end quote. I've played around with AI for images and artwork concepts. It's pretty cool for certain use cases. I've also been using a service called Grammarly for a long time to help edit my writing. So, definitely there are some use cases for AI. I hate editing. I've never been a good editor, so having that, to help out with my writing process has been very useful. So I can see how AI in that type of instance can be great. But the meaningful part, I think he totally misunderstands the word, or the understanding of what meaningfully means to most of us. But meaningful content to me is something that's created and, having conversations between people. There's nothing meaningful about just random stuff that's going to be generated and popped in your timeline based on what you're interested in. That just, having a never-ending content feed sounds a bit like having just a steady drip of Soma. It's a bit too Orwellian, or, in this case, I guess, Huxley, The Brave New World, a little bit too much like The Brave New World for that. But the happiness inducing drug Soma is kind of just a perfect fit for how social media companies are creating experiences that are going to keep their users engaged indefinitely with no regard for their mental well being. On that note, and I'll get off my soapbox here in a second, there's an excellent Substack called After Babel, which looks at the impact of social media and technology on mental health, specifically younger kids and teenagers. These platforms and social media are especially damaging for younger kids. The fact that so many parents just hand their kids a phone or a tablet that they can scroll through TikTok or other social media apps without supervision is just kind of shocking to me. If you're even, remotely interested in learning about how social media affects adults and kids, I definitely would recommend checking out this publication. It's not space related, but if we continue to raise kids, the next generation of aerospace engineers, scientists, astronauts, artists, really, the list goes on. In this type of damaging information environment, we're going to find that these kids are just not equipped to handle life, let alone the stresses that involved with exploring our place in the solar system and beyond. It's not something that's just happening here in the US either. It's a worldwide phenomenon. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but definitely check out After Babel. Fascinating look into the science and like the hard numbers around how social media is impacting kids. I've got some other exciting things coming up in the form of a new podcast and Substack that I'll be launching soon. This upcoming project is going to be aviation focused, which is perfect because I live here in Wichita, which is the air capital of the U.S. So stay tuned for details on that as well. I've also decided to really try to get more involved with the local community here in Wichita. Having an impact on social media, just getting likes and views and clicks is one thing, but being able to impact people in the local community here is something that I'm really excited about. I joined the Experimental Aircraft Association, or the EAA, and I'm going to be doing some fun stuff for the Chapter 88 here in Wichita about their newsletter and website and membership. So I'm really excited to be able to help out, drive this organization that's really making a big impact in kids' lives here in Wichita, and the just general, Kansas area around Wichita. So it's going to be a fun next couple of years while I'm doing that. For space this year, just to kind of bring it back to what the topic of this podcast is, space has had a heck of a year. From exploring the moon to the outer solar system, tests back here on Earth. I'm really excited to see what happens with the JUICE spacecraft. It launched as an ESA mission that launched to explore Jupiter. It'll be there in about 8 years. So that's wild to think about, that Astrid was just born when this was launched, and she will be able to be old enough to enjoy those first images of the JUICE spacecraft reaching Jupiter in the next 8 years. ISRO launched a lunar lander. They became, I think, the fourth country to land on the moon, and the first to land near the polar region, which is really cool. NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission came back with a sample from the asteroid Bennu, which was really cool. A few years ago, I was able to interview one of the project scientists on that mission. So I need to look at doing a follow-up episode on that once some of the results start coming back out. What else happened this year? Psyche. I think Psyche just launched a few weeks ago. Time is a flat circle, so I'm trying to keep up with things here. That's going to be an interesting, studying a metallic asteroid with a spacecraft is going to be one heck of a mission. So that'll be fun to watch for. Tons of human space flight this year, from space tourism to astronauts launching to the ISS. I think here at the end of the year, we're supposed to still have the Vulcan Centaur launch. Hopefully United Launch Alliance can keep that on the books for 2023. I think last time I heard it was going to be right around like Christmas Eve. So they're really coming up against the calendar on this one. So good luck to them. I'm going to be excited to see the Vulcan launch here soon. You know, next year there's going to be tons more. But the focus of this podcast is shifting more to books, conversations with authors. I'm going to be doing less news and historical readouts. If you want the history, season 1 has 365 episodes. I'll probably go back through and do some, books related to those topics over the coming years. But yeah, just changing up how I focus my time now that I've got this little one here who is still snoozing. I'm surprised she hasn't decided to squeak a little bit even here. I just really decided how to change up how I spend my time. If you're ever in the Wichita area and you want to come to a pancake breakfast for the EAA, check out their Facebook page. I'm going to try to make all of those pancake breakfasts. It's like $7, so great deal. Come get some pancakes, talk to fellow aviation nerds, come say hi if you're ever in Wichita. Same thing goes if you're ever in the area going to see the Cosmosphere. Send me a message. I'd love to meet up if it's possible. Little Astrid here will be my co-tour guide. She has no choice in the matter. But yeah, just changing up how I spend my time to have a little bit more of an impact here in person in Wichita, and then just having more meaningful conversations with authors, I think is something that's important to me, and that's why I'm changing up how I do the podcast. So new episodes coming soon. I should be hearing back here soon about interview with the authors of a book who wrote a really interesting history of TWA. I'm looking forward to reading that galley. There's some science books that I've reached out to authors. Hopefully I'll be hearing back soon and can get some people on the books. But until next time, I'm John Molnix, and this is Little Astrid here with me too, and we'll catch you on the flip side.